Well, joining me live right here at 5 to explain these charges and what they tell us next is Nick Mudd of the Mudd Legal Group. He's also a former assistant Jefferson County Commonwealth's attorney in the Violent Crimes Unit. So, Nick, Lawson comes out of the blue to us, a name we'd never seen before, not talked about. The charge conspiracy, what is that telling us right off the bat?
It's a charge that's not very utilized in state court, but it tells us right off the bat that there's another person involved. If you look at the statute, look at the law on it, that law implicates more than one person. So that means there's probably charges coming for someone else in the future.
I wouldn't have been surprised today if the FBI swept in there and made more arrests. That did not happen. But do you think that's how this case is going to progress now? I mean, how do you see it play out as a former prosecutor?
You know, it's hard to tell without looking at the discovery, which is the evidence in the case. That will be forthcoming. You know, I think there will be a question of whether or not that will be publicly available or not. But going forward, you know, I think that will indicate who or what other person was involved. And certainly the crime of criminal conspiracy with any charge lends itself to an additional person being charged. So going forward, it wouldn't surprise me if more people are charged involved in this.
You say investigating cold cases is very hard because of the name of it. The longer they go on, the harder it is to solve. So what impresses you about this move that just happened this week? You
know, cold cases are extremely difficult. I handled a number when I was a prosecutor. I handled them as a defense lawyer. As cases go on, people forget, you know, witnesses forget things. They forget what they saw. Things get lost. And so for a cold case to be brought, indicted, and charged someone with, especially a crime, a serious crime like this, means there must be some smoking gun. There had to have been some breakthrough in the evidence for them to look at the evidence, bring it to a grand jury, and ultimately indict an individual with 2 serious felonies.
As an attorney and someone who's looked over investigations, let's go back to when Sheriff Mattingly named Brooks Houck as the chief suspect in this case, but he's never been arrested. Did you find that to be an unusual move, that a law enforcement officer would come out and say, here's the guy we think did it, but then so far to this day, nobody's been arrested except for Joseph Lawson? Generally,
you know, the police do not name their prime suspect in an investigation because it's just that, it's an investigation. So that's an odd move typically. I know most officers that deal with, they're dealing with homicides or serious cases, don't come right out and, you know, and say who their prime suspect or prime target is. They gather the evidence, present it before a grand jury before making those claims public.
We last heard from the FBI October 2022 when they spent 5 days on the Houck family farm there, and they had been excavating a driveway in the area of a neighborhood. So as you see the next steps in this case, how do you see it playing out?
It's difficult to say without looking at the actual evidence, but that being said, the fact that the charge was not charged as murder. It charges criminal conspiracy to commit murder. So, you know, it wouldn't be uncommon for plea deals to happen, prosecutors wanting this individual to make statements in exchange for a plea deal, that type of thing. That's not uncommon in cases involving these kind of charges.
How do you think this case stayed so quiet? If we now see a possible conspirator involved in this, other people were involved, how did they keep it quiet so long?
You know, that's a good question, and that's the question we all want to know the answer to. Certainly, all of us want to see the evidence in the case and see what led them to this and why are we here years later suddenly with a serious indictment before this individual.